All right. Call the meeting to order and rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Our first order of business is council minutes from September 4th. We need approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Mr. Holscher is on the agenda to request training funds.
Debbie York is going to leave the county January 1st. She has an illness that yeah, that she has to deal with that won't allow her to be my deputy. I am going to appoint Simone Hilton. This lady, she'll be my first deputy. I'm asking for training funds for 4 weeks in the amount of $4,845.17.
I guess my question would be, she's going to be working in that office, right?
Yes, but not as first deputy or chief deputy.
She's already a paid employee. She's already a paid employee.
Yes,
So why do we need training funds for her since she's already an employee?
because the job will change from what she's doing now to being first deputy or chief deputy, whatever you call it.
Okay, but she can't be paid for doing two jobs
Yeah.
at the same time. If you brought somebody in from the outside, Mark,
I understand.
I
I'm just
think,
saying, if she's going to be trained as first deputy, then she should be paid first deputy salary, just like they did in the emergency management a couple weeks ago. They're going to pay
That's
somebody to
what they
come
did.
in, they'll train them as first at that job.
I don't think Matthew asked for the same rate of pay.
Yeah.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a problem if you bringing in somebody from the outside to do that job, but I don't know that we can or should have her paid. I just don't think I don't think we can do that. Other thoughts?
Do you intend to backfill her position now?
We've already put in a request to HR to change what she's doing now. And hopefully we'll change the category of the job so that we're gonna be looking as soon as possible to fill her job with the county.
You just created her job this last year as the grant person, right? Now you're gonna change that? We're not gonna have a grant person anymore?
We are, but there's gonna be more to it than that.
Well, what if you don't get that classification?
We're still gonna try to hire somebody as soon as we can to fill her position. So we can move her over to chief deputy under a training program, and then she'll take over her Debbie's job on January 3rd.
So your request for training dollars is to pay
Simone.
what about the salary that she's currently
We're gonna fill that position as soon as we can. so that, I'll have two people. One training her, the other being a new employee, which would eliminate her job from her.
For me, I think part of it is the fact that Debbie's still here doing her job. Simona's gonna learn her job, but she's not actually going to do the job. Debbie's doing the job, but do you have some comments, Debbie?
Ideally, it would be great if we could fill her position December 1, and then Simona be totally being trained by me before I left. So therefore, he'd have a new person getting Simona's old pay, and then Simona would be getting
But how is she gonna train a new person and learn from you at the same time?
Evo probably. I trained her, so I also probably would be training the new person as well as Simona.
Well, the other thing is we don't have a line item for how do we,
He wants the training funds, but we don't even know if that other person will be hired or we have no idea yet.
Maybe it's just premature here.
Yeah.
That, you know, we know that that's gonna be the case and,
Yeah.
talk about it and maybe
Without
even
there-
a workshop?
without there
in
being
November?
somebody in Simona's
Yeah.
role, I don't think we can do anything at this point.
No. I guess at workshop in November, we'll know if you've got someone who's gonna start December 1st or not. And then we can decide, because it's very confusing to HR and everybody the way it is right now. I'm sure it's possible. So we'll relook at that when we find out.
Kim, what's the timeline on what I gave you yesterday?
It has to have council approval before it's sent to Irwin, and you just had that position reviewed 4 months ago for reclassification. I reviewed it, I have forwarded it to council with my recommendation, and it's up to council.
What's your recommendation?
That there's a lot of duplication from what you submitted in 4 months ago in July.
That's for the current position that Simona's in.
Yes.
We'll just have to revisit this. I mean, it costs us money every time we send those off for evaluation and they come back and say, no. I mean, it's kind of, unless you feel like it can really be something that can be changed, then I don't feel like we
Pam went through it, the proposed and the old, and there was a lot of duplication. There's some added duties that doesn't justify a classification.
Mhm.
And I personally, 4 months ago, I cannot see that this would go through as a reclassification. I'm being very neutral and being very honest.
And probably as far as using the training grants anyway, that wouldn't occur until December.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't hire somebody 3 months in advance and
most of the time
use
those
the
are
training
for
grants, so.
2 weeks, 4 weeks
I think we
max.
can look at it, Mark. It's the first time that we've heard about it.
All right. Let's move on to the public hearing for the budget. We need to open a public hearing. Do you want to handle this as finance or would you like me to?
Makes a
Okay.
difference. It's on council agenda,
Okay,
so.
I'll do it. We just need to open a public hearing and see if we have any comments on our 2025 budget.
Do we need a motion to open a public hearing? I don't know if we
Just
do
to
or
close
not.
it.
We typically do just so the structure and the minutes reflect.
Let's do it to close it.
Motion to open the public hearing on the budgets.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any comments pertaining to the 2025 proposed budget? If not, I will hear a motion to close the public meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Now we need a motion to approve the budget.
We're not approving the budget today. That's next month, next meeting.
I know, my brain's not here.
So we take no action. It's just the hearing was today for people to make comments
Yeah, okay,
at the workshop.
sorry.
I do need some information from my office, so that we can make sure we get this done and in the gateway and in the Lao. We do, when we did the salaries, we put in what we called placeholders to make sure we had enough money. So there are non-county general placeholders. Do we need to make those zero?
Yes. That's my answer.
I think you've seen my questions.
Yeah.
What do we do with the $3 million you put in your county general budget to cover salaries?
We'll include this in the budget. I mean, that was part of my agenda to talk about when we talk about the budget and finance.
You want to do all of these questions then?
I think it'll be best.
Okay, commissioners' comments, please.
We'll review our budget.
We'll do it in
Finance.
finance.
Good morning.
Morning.
Looking at your bi-weekly project sheet. Going down through that with a couple of changes to note. Nothing different on the generator. We spoke last. The technology, that we finished that project, but I've kept that in there for a placeholder because remember, Matt, you had a question, make sure that last $1,800 where that goes, and I've not yet received the final invoice for that, so I'm just keeping that there as a placeholder. The courthouse elevator, the commissioners will be continuing to discuss that after the last presentation that you had at workshop to determine what the scope of that project should look like. So we'll be coming back to you with that recommendation. The Coleman Center roof and Coleman Center ceiling and lighting, those bids were awarded and the notice to proceed has been issued. Those numbers you see on there, just the 90, for example, the $91,190, that includes half of the engineering fees. So remember, it was higher than what the actual bid quote was. So that you can see the entire cost of that project, I included half of that, $32,380 into that total. So you could see that in its entirety. And then on line 12, remember we added a 10% contingency for both those projects, and that's to come out of the fairgrounds naming rights. And so if you look down at the lower right-hand corner of that sheet, the balance in that fund is about $61,000. So if we put a placeholder in there of the $17,000, then there's an uncommitted amount in the naming rights of about $44,000. The First Bank Escobar HVAC, remember the outside painting with all the rain we've had in the last number of weeks, it slowed them down their project at the highway department, so that's not quite finished yet. And then the landscaping and hardscaping project, again, the commissioners will continue to talk about the scope of that project, and when we narrow that down, that'll come back to you as well. And then the IT cabling project, the RFPs are due October 16th to the commissioners for consideration. Then again, we'll come back to you once those numbers are in. And then as always, you've got your council one-time balance there on the right-hand column. Remember, you've got about $53,000 committed so far to me in my projects. The actual balance is about $2 million, and remember that includes that number that was encumbered that was never done anything with, because those were moved to the ARPA funds. And so the actual balance less the encumbrance is about $820,000. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, Jeff.
Good morning. We've got in front of you the ARPA report, the help projects on one side of that sheet and the non-help projects on the other side. We are making progress. We continue to make progress. The one change update, I'll call it, on the non-help projects. Remember, we committed $121,000, clear down at the bottom, $121,834 from the uncommitted line item to pay the increase for this year in property and casualty insurance. And so that uncommitted number goes down to $355,025. I will tell you that in light of the increases that we're anticipating in the emergency communication and tower project, I have been working on some proposals of how we can shift dollars around. Remember that some of these line items are going to come in below the number we originally budgeted, so we need to shift those dollars to another project before the end of the year. Some of them may come in a little bit higher. Obviously, the radio project is one of those, and so I'm coming up with a proposal. I've not had a chance yet. I've been thinking through it, haven't had a chance to talk to the commissioners about it. I anticipate doing that next week when all three of us are at the meeting, and then bring you a recommendation from the commissioners of how we might shift dollars around at the workshop. So I think we'll have a firmer number. Mr. Ritter, is that correct, on workshop night, or is that not until the November meeting?
We're on target for workshop this month to come to commissioners and council with final recommendations.
Fair enough. So I continue to work with that. I want to keep you updated on where we're at, and we'll talk more about that as we go through this process. But our intention is to have sound numbers for every project and have all of our ARPA dollars committed contractually by the end of this year. Then we'll go into 2025 with the actual expenditure of those dollars, but we will have everything committed.
Where are you on the prox card?
We have gotten back, we met with the Courthouse Security Committee, had some recommendations on where we needed those prox card locks and readers, and we've gotten back with the company that does that work, that gave us the original estimate, and we should have a new estimate based on that new proposal any time now.
What was the original estimate, the 250? Or
No.
I thought that was just a
Now,
amount.
the
we put
original
in there.
estimate was over 300,000, so we need to look at, can we pare that back without negatively impacting security? The security committee spoke to us on that issue, and I think we have agreement on what we can and cannot do. And so when we get a new number, we'll come back to you with either a request that we add to that 250, or that we have been able to get it down to or below that 250 number without negatively impacting security. So that's where we're at. We anticipate that sometime this month. We'll keep you updated.
There's quite a bit of money in that, where did I see the signs for the small towns,
And we're working on that as well.
are they gonna be using that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some excitement from some of the locations that don't have signs now that they'll.
Okay.
And I'm talking to the towns, working with the sheriff on the locations that would most benefit from having that signage. And I think, and you can ask Randy when he's talking to you, but I think he believes that, as I do, that does have an impact on speed and that it will be beneficial. Cambridge City, as many of you may have heard, with the county's assistance, applied for an EDA grant for the water tower at the Gateway Industrial Park. They did receive $2.8 million in federal funds for that project. It's a little over a $6 million project. They are working through the final engineering and so on, but they're anticipating that they will come to us with a request for some support. My expectation would be any support that would go to that project would be through the Redevelopment Commission and the TIF funds that are available through redevelopment. So the Redevelopment Commission will be having a meeting. I've been talking to Ron. Those of you who are on that board may recall that this year, for the first time, we have to submit a budget for the redevelopment spending, and that is due by December the 1st to the state. And so we'll need to meet before then and actually allocate what are the projects that those dollars can be spent on for 2025. There is a process to amend that budget if need be, but this will be the first time that we have put together a budget. And in theory, there has to be a line item to be able to expend those funds then out of the Redevelopment Commission. Again, there is a process to make changes to that budget by submitting a new budget, but we'll be going through that process in the near future, so we'll keep you up to date on that.
Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Would this be a new water tower to replace the existing one, or would we be adding?
We'll be adding, I'm sorry, it won't replace, it will be an additional tower.
Of how many gallons?
1 million gallons. 1 million gallons to be able to adequately meet the needs of the growth in the park, and specifically for Sugar Creek there. As they have added on and added lines, their use of water is significant, as you know.
Thank you.
As Steve alluded to, we're expecting a preliminary report on the landscape hardscape project in the next week or two. We'll keep you in the loop on how that's going. That potentially is an area that we will need to make some decisions on cutting back on what some of the original thoughts were or adding funds to that project. Along the same lines, the elevator project, as you heard from the report, the estimates for the new elevator are somewhere between $800,000 and $1.3 million. The estimate for the reworking the existing elevator somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. So we'll need to make decisions on, do we want to do just a new elevator? Do we want to do the new elevator and refurbishing the old elevator? Again, the commissioners will be talking about that. We'll come with a recommendation, and whatever that recommendation from the commissioners is, we'll work into our proposal on how we shift ARPA dollars around and
have a proposal for you on how we can fund all these projects. I'm confident that we'll be able to do that in a reasonable way that doesn't negatively impact our financial position. I think we can, and appreciate all of your work over the years to make sure that we have resources available to take on these projects as they come up. So we'll be talking more about that in the coming weeks. That's all I have for the moment. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
I have one question, Steve. I sent an email to you and I think Steve,
Here in a minute.
the status of the land lease. I know we were working on an appraisal. The draft lease from the county's perspective. Are we close to getting that amended and back to the
Ron?
company?
I think so. I think the one issue that I have left with commissioners, and I don't, because of absences, I don't know that they totally come down on it, and that is the lease itself does not have anything that relates to any security for decommissioning the tower if it ever became necessary to do so. And I always advise my private clients to make sure they get that in the lease agreement, whether it's a letter of credit, whether it's a bond, whatever, because ultimately it falls back on the taxpayers to be the funding of last resort, so to speak. The issue is, do we want does the commissioners, or does council and commissioner want to build that into this lease and as a requirement for the tower itself?
I think the lease was, what, 50 years?
Yeah.
Which is reasonable for a tower. I guess if that's a requirement and that's your recommendation, let's put it in. Let's get that turned back to the company and let their legal question that. And because we really need to have that lease executed before we sign a contract to buy hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment. To
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, I would support you adding that.
Okay. We can.
We'll have that on our agenda for this afternoon. So.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick, we did have some minutes from our executive session that we held right before our meeting last month, and I need a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Those are done. And we have one addition to our agenda. We have Randy Rutter here from the Sheriff's Department. He has a request.
Good morning, and thank you for adding me this morning. We've had a unique opportunity presented to me, and I'm here today to talk with you a little bit about what that opportunity is and how, or what my solution is to be able to fund that. So just a couple of days ago, it was brought to my attention that a purpose-built mobile command post or mobile command unit was available for sale. And this is it's actually a used unit, but it's used in an incredibly good condition. And it's relatively local. We currently have a mobile command unit that is it's a 2004 mobile home, and it was converted for the use of mobile command unit, and it served us well, but unfortunately, because of its age and because it wasn't actually made for this purpose, I think it's starting to fail. And it seems like, and if you don't mind, I'll approach and provide some of these to share. These are some photos of it. The current mobile command unit, or MCU, continues to fail us on a number of occasions, and quite frankly, we're starting to lose our confidence that it's going to work when we need it to. This is something that has become incredibly important over the years for us to use, and We use it several times a year. I know that for major events, anytime that the 911 center is down for a short period of time, whether that's for maintenance issues or any other kind of failures, that is our backup to the communication center. And I'll have Matthew speak to that here in just a second. But this mobile command unit that was brought to our attention is actually owned by the city of Carmel. It was the Carmel Police Department's mobile command unit. It's a 2006 model Freightliner with a 30-foot box that's purpose-built just for law enforcement and communications operations. So it's built specifically for what we need. As you can see by the photographs, it has everything that we would need to operate with the exception of computers and radios. The only other mechanical issues that it has is it is in need of 2 of the small RV air conditioners, which we just purchased one brand new one for the current mobile command unit. So we actually have one of those on hand that we could easily install. Mileage on this unit is less than 8,000 miles. So it has 8,000 or less than 8,000 miles on this chassis. And it's, if I didn't mention it before, it's actually in an online auction. The current bid is $17,500. I anticipate it going for more than that. However, my research, as best that I can compare this to anything else that's out there, and is at a resale value of approximately $125,000. Again, I think it's going to go for much less than this. We use our mobile command unit quite frequently throughout the year. I'm going to say on an average, just for unplanned events, a half a dozen times per year. We have other planned events, and then again, dispatch uses it several times as well. We currently have, and EMA Director Kane is passing out some information on some of the historical uses that EMA and dispatch has used our MCU for. I currently estimate the needs for the MCU that we currently have. We're going to have to spend approximately $22,850 to repair some of the items that are needed in it, and that does not include any mechanical issues that may come up in the future. Going back to our uses, we use it for tactical situations. We use it for near command posts for lost and found, or lost persons. We use it for any major incident that's going to be a long in duration, whether that's for investigations or for tactical considerations. And I'd like Director Kane to step up and talk a little bit about what EMA and dispatch uses that for as well.
So the list you have in front of you includes both things that are planned, that we annually use this apparatus for, the 4-H fair, Reed Ride, fireworks in the city, several trainings and exercises to support our law enforcement and fire trainings and exercises that they have. And then you have a list of some of the unplanned uses from the last 10 years that dispatch has been involved in. It doesn't necessarily include what the Sheriff's Department has utilized it for. Not every time do we need a dispatcher at the scene of whatever is going on. But these are the ones that where dispatch has been involved in. Most recently, we've had to use it fairly often because of the generator issues with the building. And it's been a godsend for us to be able to do that. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure where we would be able to go. We'd have to set up our equipment in another location, which can be done. It's just awfully convenient to park that at the top of the steps. It's also been, the Sheriff's Department has graciously allowed us to kind of advertise this as a district asset. So you'll see a couple of these call-outs were actually to assist our neighbors where they had requested this unit. The closest communication unit similar to even what we currently have is Madison County in Anderson. So it serves a purpose not only for us locally, but can also be considered a district asset for our neighbors in this area of the state.
Can I ask Matthew a question? Matthew, in planning for this, knowing what you have today, in today's world in redundant PSAPs, we never advocate for bricks and mortar. Would this be sufficient for you to be able to put call handling equipment in the Vivo's command post?
Absolutely.
And leave it equipped for deployment?
Yeah, we went over and looked at it yesterday, and we could put all 5 of our dispatchers in there quite easily. Where our current setup, it's maybe 3, and they're sitting on the lap of their coworker. But absolutely, they've got this, since it's purpose built. It's got all the cabling, all of the connections already into the wall. Phones can be hung on the wall as opposed to just kind of strewn out with cables, how we currently are doing it. So yes, it would both call handling and the radio communication part of it.
And we already own some of that equipment.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
And to that point, again, we went out and inspected it yesterday. The mileage is very good. The overall condition is very good. Literally, the only thing that we would need to do to this would be to install the 2 small RV air conditioners, one of which, again, we already own, and install our radio and computer equipment in it, and it would be ready for us to use. I'll remind you that we have almost $23,000 in anticipated repairs to the old mobile command unit, and again, we're just trying to create something to help us get by, and we've managed to be able to do that. So I think the next question comes is where does the funding come from? And that's why I come to you this morning. We have taken a hard look at our budget, and we are able to, within the 2024 budget, we are able to provide at least $135,000 from unused salary, and that's from the enforcement and jail divisions, and that does not account for the transfers that we're going to be making today. So this is totally separate from those transfers that we'll be making today. I'm not asking for that entire amount because I don't think this unit is completely worth that much. I think that, again, from our best estimate, it should be worth less than $125,000, and frankly, I don't think it'll go that high on this auction. What I would propose is that council sets an up to limit that would allow me to transfer, if we're successful in getting the bid, would allow me to transfer up to $100,000 of that money, which still leaves another cushion of over $35,000 in my budget, but be able to transfer up to $100,000 to make that purchase. On top of that, I would like to add that I would like to use the first 75,000 of that straight from the budget, and then go into a 50-50 match, if you will, out of commissary to match budget money with commissary money up to the 125,000. I anticipate still having to spend a fair amount of money in paint and striping and other things like that, which I would take completely out of commissary to fund that. And then any other small or minor repairs, upfitting, other things like that, I would pay for out of commissary as well.
Sheriff, with the building that we currently house the mobile command unit in now, will this unit fit in that building?
Yes, I believe it will. This one's slightly longer, but my recollection is that there's sufficient length in that building to house this.
What is the value of the current mobile command center?
I don't have a good estimate on that, but I do know, again, it's a 2004, so it's relatively old, and it's been, it would have to be completely redone in order to turn it back into an RV. So I suspect the value on this is going to be pretty low.
Is it something the fleet committee can put
If I can give a
on?
little bit of history on that, Tony, that unit was actually a mobile home that was purchased by Sheriff Strittmatter. I'm thinking in his second term. It was totally gutted, basically, as a mobile home, and a lot of the work was done by some of the reserve officers on the department at that time to turn it into what we could use as a mobile command unit. Over the years, under probably 12, 15 years it's been used.
Yeah.
I had to put money in it also as well to try to maintain it and keep it up to where it's been. I think Sheriff Rudder's assessment on its value right now is probably pretty spot on. It's had its life, so to speak, and just having to put that amount of money into it before you even start looking at the mechanical things, we've had to always repair on it as well. So what I'm trying to say basically was it was never meant to be what it is. It was a quick fix to try to get something for the community, so.
Sheriff, is that handicap accessible?
I don't know that it has ramps or lifts. I'm going to say no.
Would it be possible if we've got 25,000 in repairs to the current, could we use 25,000 out of the repair line item that you have, 25 from the commissary, and council do commit up to 75 if we so choose to do?
Yeah, so I can't say with 100% certainty that I was planning on taking all of the repairs that I had listed out of commissary, but a portion of that was going to come out of commissary also. And I also understand, and just in a brief passing conversation with Commissioner Plaster, that the commissioners may have some funding available as well. And
If I could just comment, we did talk very briefly this morning. We obviously haven't met, this just came up yesterday, so we'll have some conversation this afternoon in the commissioners meeting and see. There are a couple of areas where we might be able to come up with some money to help that are not general fund, so we can have that conversation and share that with you. But I believe the auction ends tomorrow, does it not?
Yes.
So if we want to give him the opportunity to at least put in a bid, we will need to decide whether that's something that can be done today. And then we'll talk this afternoon about whether we can offset some of that funding with some of our resources. Thank you. I support it. think it's a reasonable cost. The current vehicle they're using is old and getting tired. And so for both departments, I think it makes some sense if we can get it at a reasonable cost.
Does anybody have any other questions?
To add to that, I do believe that this would be something with the condition that it's in and the fact that it's purpose-built will last us for decades.
Any other questions?
I think I just want to make a statement. I think it's a good investment. I know I've led clients this way for emergency communications. I would just want to make sure that if this is something that we do, that this is a county-owned emergency vehicle that is shared amongst agencies. The 911 center is going to get the most use out of it, and it's not a vehicle that's controlled or under the authority of the sheriff alone.
Correct, and never has been under my administration or the previous.
Do I have a recommendation or a motion?
I move that I make a motion that we allow the sheriff to proceed.
I'll second that.
And is that an up to $100,000 mark?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Motion passes. Yes?
The minutes should also reflect, which I think the evidence establishes very clearly, that the cost of any rehab of the existing unit would exceed the reasonable value of the unit as rehab, so to speak. And that, by definition, the statute renders it valueless. So
Okay.
that opens up the opportunity to dispose of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hand that over to food committee. All right, I think that we are done with all our agenda items today. Our next meeting is November 6th at 8 a.m. and we have workshop October 16th at 6 p.m. And I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none.